Okay. And Tony's been kind enough to share his experience, strength, and hope with us today. So thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Marianne. Honored, blessed.
Hang on. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, thank you, Marianne. Tony, alcoholic. Honored, blessed, and humbled to share my quick story and just where I'm at, how I'm approaching not only the stage of my sobriety, and then when you just parlay that with this unprecedented negative environment that COVID-19 has presented. My sobriety date is April 2nd, 2017. I am by no means a one-chip wonder. I think I heard somebody the other day share how the amount of white chips that they've collected, they can essentially make a tabletop. I'm not sure if I can make a tabletop, but I'm more than one chip. I've lost a lot. I've lost a lot of things, and I'm using quotation, air quotes here with things as a result of this disease. The ones that really, for me, truly impact me is the loss of, at one time, when I lost my dignity, and when I lost the ability to communicate how anchored I am to building a legacy. And it's not a legacy in the eyes of the outside world. I'm looking at just the legacy with two eyes, and that's my 12-year-old son, who is everything to me. I do what I do, and I walk the walk for me, but ultimately I want to make sure that I impact him as he grows up. And I share the realities of this disease, and what it could do and what it's done to me, what it's done to some of my fellow friends in this fellowship. I've never been impacted with any DUIs, no loss of employment, thankfully so, but I did make it through 3 successful rounds of treatment, some as short as 30 days, some as long as 8 months. And so I'll tell you this, there was some of those stays were long and arduous, but they were part of the process. And today I understand what that process represents in the walk that I share today with those in this fellowship. It's not an easy walk. The path is a lot smoother. The first year was a lot of rocks, it was an uphill climb. But here's the reality. Today my life is a lot more simple. And so if I were to categorize this or title this discussion, it's essentially the art of simplicity. Because I don't know what tomorrow holds, right? But I do know who holds tomorrow. And for me, as long as I can apply that principle in almost everything that I do, and I say almost because, there's times where I still want to control things. If I apply that principle, my life is just better. The life that I live today is a result of really anchoring to that principle. You see, for me, for the longest time, I had a big problem. And the problem was I refused to follow directions. I loved shortcuts. Those guys, those of you on this Zoom call, you know that I'm vertically challenged. So I share the word short with shortcut. And anything I can do to get to the result faster, I was all about that, right? Directions are somewhat boring, predictable, and I really anchored to the excitement around an unpredictable life, right? It just goes with a life of addiction. And at the end of the day, I just had a problem with authority. And I'm not saying I had a problem, following the law, but I had a problem with, people telling me it was that simple. And so what I've done as a result of this program, some fantastic people on this call who have really helped shape and guide me to really change the way I think, I've really reframed that entire principle around following directions. See, because today, if I follow directions, I can then apply this art of simplicity. If it's a seven-step process, I'm going through 7 steps, right? And it all starts with following directions. For me, it all starts with following directions on how to start my day, right? I have to slow down immediately, know that my alcoholism is untreated. 3 is immediately get on my knees and ask for guidance. Ask him to shine the light on this alcoholic that wants to do the next right thing. By doing that, I think it shows and it allows me to share my story around how directions really are impactful in this walk towards sobriety. Not drinking and living a sober life are 2 completely different things. You double click on the not drinking to ultimately walk in sobriety. Just really funnel down and try and get into the details of what that means. And for me, I've always wanted to share how, me following directions ultimately allowed me to live this life. For me, and I hear my sponsors say this a lot, he doesn't think about drinking, he doesn't think about not drinking. He's living, right? And that to me resonates. That to me speaks to the power of sobriety, right? It's balancing the highs with the lows. And I'm not saying, don't get jazzed up when things are going well or not embrace the pain when things aren't going well. But it's all about just accepting life on life's terms. And I think that just comes with me following this recipe. I also, with these instructions and the changes that it's made for me and how I think through things, it allows me to walk others through the same examples, principles, and directions that I was afforded, right? And this ultimately, this life amplifies, by me doing all of the right things or trying to do the right things and having the proof that things are working in my favor, this ultimately amplifies what this program is all about, which is being able to give it away. There's no way I can give away what I have if I don't follow every direction, every step the way it's written. And so you've heard me on numerous calls and numerous meetings talk about really not thinking through a lot, especially during this time. Don't get me wrong, I put in and I pay the piper, Monday through Friday. I have a very demanding job, which requires a lot of, a lot of strategy, a lot of forward-thinking approaches on how we're going to manage the business. But with this, I need to simplify it. Another problem that I had initially coming into this program is that I didn't want to meet others. I didn't want to open up to others. And I think that's probably a common sentiment amongst a lot of us in this room. I didn't want to get close to them. And I think that the art of reframing that this program has given me is that by leaning into others and appreciating and embracing others, I now make my life less about me and more about them. Because, whether you're anchored and you see the value in the Bible, which I do, it's there, it's biblical. But then when you look at the practicality of what that simple instruction is, believe me, if you don't believe it, you will feel it once you actually do it. And so I think one of the considerations here is, one of the watch outs is, when you're doing service and when you're getting out of self and you're making it more about others and less about you, I think that, the alcoholic mind, at least my alcoholic mind, sometimes says, well, I wonder how they're going to appreciate all that I'm doing for them. And so that's just caution. I think that it's a character defect that, it's all about others, but how is that ultimately coming back to you, right? Is that feedback loop coming to you in a way that you're going to ultimately improve or something's going to benefit you. And so for me, on this, day that started off beautiful, then, turned rainy, and now is beautiful again. That's the realities of how my life, applying this principle around living simple, and I have a history of complicating the simple, but for me, that allows me to get out of self, stay in the now, and ultimately get even more connected to my higher power. I'll turn the meeting over to you guys.